Hey guys, today I'll be explaining the Analects of Confucius 3.20, and without further ado, let's get started. 3.20. That, master said, that's weird. The cry of the osprey expresses joy without becoming licentious, and expresses sorrow without falling into excessive pathos. That's also weird, but it's okay, we got this. So basically, to give some context, the cry of the osprey is the first ode in the Book of Odes, or the classic of poetry. And so it's a love poem and expresses this very common human feeling, which is romantic love. And so it talks about a young man or a gentleman who really wants to marry a young woman who he thinks is very fitting for him. And so, like Confucius says, it expresses joy and it expresses sorrow, but it expresses joy without becoming licentious, and it expresses sorrow without falling into excessive pathos. So this kind of A, but not B, that kind of structure. This kind of structure is kind of like the mean of things. And no, it's not kind of like mediocrity, it's not telling you to be mediocre, but instead it's kind of about finding the middle way kind of to do things. I know the middle way, I think it's a different thing, but same thing. It's finding the middle and going along with that. And so Confucius is really appreciating the young man's restraint in this whole kind of yearning kind of part. And so it expresses joy. So joy is just the very natural kind of emotion, positive, life-affirming emotion that is evoked naturally when you're feeling happy, I suppose. I think we all know what joy means. And but it's not licentious, which in this context is just it's not overly joyful to the extent that it kind of overflows, or it goes beyond proper boundaries. And so this joy, although it is expressed to its fullest extent, it's not going into the excessive part. And so this poem is the ideal kind of emotion that you should be in when we are talking about romantic love. And so it falls between maybe lacking the amount of emotion and having way too much emotion. So it's the middle, and it's very harmonious, and it'll be sure to bring you harmony. And so the next part is it expresses sorrow. So sorrow in this poem is the young man is he really wants to marry this girl, but so much that he's just lying awake at night thinking, oh, I really want to marry this girl. And so sorrow is normal. It's absolutely normal. It's the natural melancholy that is evoked when you are longing for something, or when something it feels really unfulfilled. And so that is exactly what this young man is feeling. But he isn't really going into very destructive kind of desperation, like, oh, if I can't have her, then I'm going to die, or something. And so what Confucius is describing is this really intense sorrow that will cause lasting damage. It will bring harm to you in some kind of way. So this poem does recognize that sorrow is a part of this kind of pursuit almost. But this young man doesn't let this kind of sorrow descend into kind of desperation, and it doesn't really bring harm to him in any way. He's still, moving, and it is a really passing cloud, it's a passing storm, it's not just never-ending rain, And so this is very, very authentic, it's very genuine, it's very sincere, and this feeling is also very normal. Again, like I've said before, sorry. But this also isn't saying to absolutely go into unrestrained emotion. It's not that kind of authentic. Some people might call it authentic in the way that it's very natural and unrestrained. But remember, this is talking about a gentleman, a cultivated kind of person who Confucius deems as the ideal person. And so this kind of raw emotion has been kind of civilized already. And so you can just fully express this kind of emotion without, you can trust that it doesn't really spiral into this kind of excessive emotions. And so this isn't really Confucius's book review, actually, but it's instead his appreciation for how difficult it is to be human. So, for example, how you should feel things, what degree it should be felt in, and etc. And I say that because I don't know what else to say. And yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, and I'll be more than happy to answer you. And also, I might even follow up with the entire kind of explanation or translation of the Cry of the Osprey. But it is called Guan Ju if you want to look more into that. I'll say a few things about that in the description. But yeah, I wish you a very good day. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!